Today, we're increasingly relying on science to answer some of the most pressing problems on the global scale, whether it is mitigating or adapting to the climate change, eradicating poverty and hunger, ensuring access to adequate standard of healthcare. We know that for science to contribute to peace, security and welfare, the application of science needs to be related to a general scale of values. This is in fact one of the founding principles of UNESCO, United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, since 70 years now. But the world has changed today, forcing us to think, what does it mean to be ethical in science today? Does it mean being mindful of ethical principles as we pursue scientific knowledge for its own sake? Is it about conventional domain of bioethics, such as patient and doctor relationships or different ethical issues that arise in clinical or research settings? Or are we talking about the responsibility of scientists to contribute consciously by design to general human welfare and well-being? UNESCO has a broad conception of science ethics and bioethics, focusing on the responsibility of scientists to help us understand the problems that we're facing and how to answer those problems. For UNESCO, when we're talking about bioethics, on top of talking about the traditional concerns of bioethics, such as informed consent, for instance, or human vulnerability, benefit and harm, we're also talking about sharing of benefits, equality, equity, and justice. We often talk about the environment and responsibility to protect the environment, responsibility to protect the future generations, to safeguard the biosphere and biodiversity. So for our conception, UNESCO's conception of bioethics, all these elements are included. We need science, transdisciplinary science especially, uniting natural and social and human sciences to help us achieve 2030 Agenda and its 17 Sustainable Development Goals. We need science to help us understand what are the problems that we're facing in the framework of 2030 Agenda and what are the evidence-based solutions that can help us address these problems. It is important here to note that science alone might not provide us with the knowledge that we need to achieve transformational change. We do need to change attitudes and behaviors. Basically, the way we relate to each other and the way we relate to and the way we treat the environment in which we live. And here, especially, science also has a very important role to play in terms of guiding us, especially human and social sciences, in terms of guiding us in achieving these transformational changes. So we need to start thinking about the right type of values that will guide science. But then the question arises, in today's world, which is characterized by increasing diversity of ideas, beliefs, worldviews, what kind of values are we talking about? How can we choose the right set of values? And here is where Universal Declaration on Bioethics and Human Rights comes in. Universality is a very important issue because then nobody can claim that this set of values is biased towards one worldview or another. Universality, in fact, is a very new claim that goes against the social and cultural patterns of our evolution as species and societies. This is why Universal Declaration on Bioethics and Human Rights together with other similar declarations of universal nature, is such an important document. It represents the consensus of 191 member states of UNESCO, which back in 2005 agreed that this set of universal principles are universally valid and true in any society, in any cultural setting. Then comes the question of what do we do with this declaration? How do we turn these principles into reality? And here is where education comes in. And this is why we're here this week conducting ethics teacher training course. Using the Universal Declaration on Bioethics and Human Rights as the framework, UNESCO developed bioethics core curriculum for universal application in any country of the world, in various educational institutions, mostly at the university level, in medical schools, but also in the faculties of law, philosophy, public policy, all the faculties that the graduates of which at one point or another will be dealing with complex bioethical issues. The idea behind ethics teacher training course that is being delivered in cooperation with Institute of Research and Development of Sri Lanka is that ethics is not a subject that can be easily taught to the students in a way that physics, for instance, or biology or chemistry is taught. In order to teach ethics effectively, the teacher, the educator, must open the mind of the students to the complexity of ethical issues that arise in any given setting and the often conflicting ethical principles that come into play, and to train the students in ethical deliberation that might actually lead to different conclusions under different circumstances. This is what we're trying to do with ethics teacher training course, trying to build the capacity of young up-and-coming ethics educators about what are the most effective ways to teach ethics and bioethics, and what is the most effective way to promote, to disseminate the principles contained in the Universal Declaration on Bioethics and Human Rights. When we partner with a country to deliver ethics teacher training course, we choose to cooperate with the institution. It might be a university or a research center, policy institute, that is a leading institution in the country in terms of promoting ethical principles and ethical conduct of science. So in Sri Lanka, cooperation with the Institute for Research and Development was a natural choice, since the institution has a long history of promoting ethical science in the country and being a harbinger of ethics and bioethics in the life of Sri Lanka. So it was an easy decision to make, to partner with an IRT. We do hope that this collaboration will continue in the future, and we will develop even more robust frameworks of promoting bioethics in the country.